Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Applications Committee. There are no projected fire alarms this evening, so if you hear the bell, please go out down the stairs and gather in the car park. Item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from Councillor Mary Bout, who has Councillor Sean MacDonald substituting, Councillor Murray Rowlands, who has Councillor Jonathan Quinn substituting, and also Councillor John Skipper.
Thank you. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. These have been circulated. Do anybody have any comments? Am I okay to sign these? Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in any of the items on the agenda for this evening? Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. Non-pecuniary reference the item to do with woodland between Devonshire Drive and Larchwood Glade. I was sent an email by the lady, Jane Whitby, in the past. I responded to say I would happy to meet up, but we never organised a meeting. So that was as far as it went.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Quinn.
So reference to the, sorry, I don't know what that was. Reference to the item about Furwood Drive, I have spoken to that resident and also visited the site. So yeah, non-pecuniary interest.
Thank you. Councillor, I can't read.
You should know my name by now, Cliff. Thompson.
Thompson, yes.
Maybe not relevant, but I am so non-pecuniary, but I am a member at the Lightwater Gym, which is in the Lightwater Leisure Centre, so would obviously directly benefit from approval of that particular application.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor.
Well, I don't think it's an issue, but just to check, a number of us were at the opening event of the Lightwater Leisure Centre and obviously discussed a number of matters related to its development, both with the trustees of the playing fields, but also the business owners there as well. But normal discussion about non-pecuniary, yeah. Half a dozen.
Jonathan, can you turn your light on?
Yeah, it seems to be broken. It's not turning off. Yeah.
Just turns it on. Okay, now I can't turn off.
Well done. Anybody else? Okay.
Oh. Councillor Wheeler.
Sorry.
I will just mention, I have mentioned it previously, I'm a member of Lightwater Netball Club, but Lightwater Netball Club no longer plays at the Lightwater Leisure Centre, so I don't think it, because the courts are no longer fit for purpose, so I don't think it's a problem, but it's where it started,
Just
for
name,
clarity.
Good. Thank you. Item 4. Maxine.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, this is the quarterly monitoring report brought to you covering the planning enforcement function. You'll see that the report covers enforcement performance and that we exceed the KPI and during this quarter and for cumulative performance so far in this financial year. Our current level of activity is at 92%, which far exceeds the 80% target. I mentioned to you in the report that we've issued a number of notices during the quarter. Since the report was prepared, a number of appeals have been lodged. As mentioned in the report, they've not yet started. There are a number of breach of condition notices issued, which are referenced in the report. Draw your attention particularly to the breach of condition notice in respect of Windlesham Garden Centre. I can confirm that breach of condition notice has not been complied with to date. Therefore, our next process will be to consider expediency and potential prosecution action. Other than that, members, I'm happy to take any questions in relation to any of the enforcement notices mentioned. We have provided you with a list of current appeals, I beg your pardon, which are with the Planning Inspectorate. You will see that I reference particularly land lying east of or adjacent to Lake House, which is also known as Oakley Stables and sometimes known as land adjacent to former 4 Acres Nursery. That appeal has now been fixed for April of 2024. Notification will shortly therefore be sent out to all interested parties and we'll bring you further updates as and when the matter progresses. We identify to you progress that we've made in part 5 of the report. Particularly wanted to update you that we have received an enforcement appeal start letter today, and we will be shortly using this as a guinea pig to turn the enforcement appeal module live, which I know was a matter that a number of you wished us to progress. There will be a link to public access, which will be enacted very shortly. So members, when that has gone live, we'll send a note around to you so that you can go on and look at the system and see whether there are any further improvements that you think we ought to make. In conclusion, another busy quarter, members. We are not anticipating that it's going to get any quieter, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you. Members, Councillor Wheeler.
I'd just like to express my thanks. So, as Maxine is all too well aware, my particular ward keeps her very busy. And when we look at the number of cases raised by ward, I'm not sure if it's good that we're the highest or bad that we're the highest. I'm not quite sure. Certainly my residents do feel that it is worth raising enforcement matters with you. So thank you very much. Thank you again for the updates with uniform and that moving forward with that, and also for the regular updates that we receive. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you. It's for those members who weren't here in the last council, it's worth noting that enforcement for Surrey Heath is relatively new, is it not?
No, sorry, I will just disagree with that. Enforcement for Surrey Heath has always been there. We just haven't always had enough staff
To do it.
in order to do it. So I don't think it's from lack of effort from previous officers. It's just that there haven't been enough officers to go around. And these things have been in flight for a very long time. We've just needed the officers to push it forward.
Good. Anyone else? No? Thank you very much. Item 5. Mr. Barnes.
Good evening. This is for the confirmation of the tree preservation order known as 0923. This has been brought for you this evening to determine the confirmation of this order. The woodland TPO, as you can see on screen at the moment, it was served to protect the woodland copse between Larchwood Glade and Devonshire Drive. The site already benefited from an area preservation order, but following several refused development applications and a recent land sale, it's considered expedient to update the order to a new woodland order to reflect the current land use and to protect the character of the copse, along with any trees which have subsequently grown up since the original order, which was 07/71. The trees are highly prominent, can be seen from both Devonshire Drive and Larchwood Glade. So as you can see, this is the site photo from Larchwood Glade and then Devonshire Drive. Following the serving of the order, one objection was received and a reply provided from myself in response to the reasons of objection, further details of which are included in your committee agenda. The reasons provided in argument against the confirmation are not considered sufficient justification against the many benefits that the woodland currently provides. So the original officer recommendation remains, which is to confirm the order as originally imposed. Thank you, Chair.
Anybody have any questions? Councillor Garrett.
It's because I pressed mine. Did it work? I'm on, so it doesn't matter if you can't see me. Thank you. My question relates to the site. Obviously, we know there's been planning applications, and now it's been bought by someone, and it's going to be trees. I suppose my question relates to the fact that the cynic may think that this site could be left for the trees to fall down, etc., etc. Nothing is done within the area. So when eventually, and I know some are going to last for a long time, but eventually it could be a site where there are no trees on it because it's not been kept up, which means then something could be built on it because the trees have disappeared. Is there anything as part of this order we can make it so it is regularly kept up, saplings are planted, etc., etc.?
In principle, really, the woodland should self-manage and self-regulate itself. So as the larger, taller, mature trees reach an age where they are no longer viable, in theory they would fall over, but obviously they'd be inspected and removed prior to that. And then that space that is left will be taken advantage of by new saplings, which are generally suppressed by the large, taller trees, which sometimes gives the impression that nothing is growing underneath. So as soon as that space is available, new trees will grow up and over time will assert the position that the previous tree. It's a continual management cycle that the woodland would automatically do itself. In terms of, was the second point, in terms of to ensure how that would remain, that in part is the reason, or in part the reason why this TPO was served, because some of the potential uses of the woodland would be counterproductive to that natural recycling process, such as being used as a recreational facility, or there was a proposal for animals to be on there. So that would prevent that natural regeneration.
Please.
Thank you. You said the dead trees will fall and the area might be cleared. Is that responsibility of ourselves or you, or is that responsibility of the landowner?
It's the landowner. So any owner of trees has a duty of care to make sure that they remain in a safe and practical fashion. And our standing advice for anyone who does own or manage trees is that they have them regularly inspected to pick up those defects, issues early, and then they can take remedial action in plenty of time to make sure that nothing ever happens.
So can we make sure I'll go back to my original question, can we make sure they do that?
There's no mechanism, you're not legally obliged to inspect your trees, but there is a duty of care.
Councillor White, then Councillor Quinn.
It's just something that I've noticed. The owner of the land lives down in Hampshire, so would not be close to the land for it to be looked after and maintained. Is that a problem?
No, because it wouldn't necessarily be the owner who would be maintaining the land. They would employ suitably skilled arborist or consultant to look after the trees on their behalf.
Councillor Quinn.
So there's currently a petition on the council website about an existing TPO not that far from here. I'm just wondering if any of the residents were concerned, because they do look like some quite tall trees quite close to the houses, but I'm assuming the response from residents was overwhelmingly in favour of the TPO.
Yeah, there was 53, I think off the top of my head, 53 responses to the TPO. Generally, when we serve the audit, it goes out to just the people that are directly infected, but we've had representation from people living in the wider community because of the value, I think, and the prominence of these trees.
Councillor Garrett.
One more point. I was made aware, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the woodland is part of the Wooded Hills character area, and as such is part of the Camberley skyline. Is that actually the case? Because I don't remember seeing that in the papers.
Yeah, that's correct. It is part of the Wooded Hills.
Anybody else? No? We have an officer recommendation to confirm the order with no modifications. Anyone wish to propose? Councillor Garrett, thank you. Second. Councillor Wheeler. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Yes. Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item, number 6, application 230783, Lightwater Country Park. Please.
Thank you, Chair. The application site relates to Lightwater Leisure Centre, situated within Lightwater Country Park. The application is referred to the committee today as the council is the landowner. There are a few updates to report since the publication of the report. A revised plan has been received showing the upgrading of the existing cycle store adjacent to the leisure centre in line with Surrey County Council highway recommendations. As a result, Condition 2 has been amended to include the relevant plan. Condition 5 has been amended to refer to the relevant plan in respect of the requirement for cycle storage, whilst Condition 9 has been included to ensure the installation and maintenance of the planters shown to the edge of the seating area as per the revised plan in the interest of visual amenity. The site falls within the countryside within the Greenbelt, adjacent to the site of nature conservation importance and site of special scientific importance, which forms part of the Thames Basin Heath SPA. The leisure centre is an established part 3-storey building, which comprises, amongst other leisure centre facilities, an indoor cafe, whilst the building sits adjacent to the associated car park, open playing fields and tennis courts. The proposal seeks the construction of an outdoor seating area associated with the existing cafe, providing 40 seated covers. In addition, an extraction flue would be installed to the roof of the building, together with minor alterations to the fenestration. The existing cycle store to the bottom right of this plan here is uncovered currently, and therefore this would be upgraded in line with Condition 5. These are the pictures of the existing and proposed elevations, showing the minor alterations to the fenestration. Here, the proposed section shows how the extraction flue would sit behind the eaves of the building so that it would not be clearly visible from street level. The Council's environmental health officers have reviewed the extraction details and raised no objections in respect of noise or odour. These show the existing context of the site. No objections have been received by any statutory consultees or neighbouring residents. Officers therefore recommend the grant of approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the officer? Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I'd raised a query earlier about using native hedge planting between the site and the car park. Has that moved forward?
Yes, we've included condition 9 with regards to planters to be maintained for the lifetime of the development.
Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair. I noted in the pack there was a recommendation from Surrey County Council concerning the road quality, and that I think it was a recommendation that should be considered as part of the application. I noticed in the conditions that have been applied that hasn't been taken up, but we are going to put it in the covered cycle store. As somebody that cycled up that road today, as evidenced by the mucky bottle, it isn't in a great state, so I'm just wondering why that recommendation was overlooked. Thank you.
So the leisure centre is an existing building on the site, and it wasn't considered that, given the scale of the proposal at hand, that the recommendation to improve the access to the site was proportional to the proposal and therefore reasonable.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. We have a recommendation to grant subject to conditions. Does anyone wish to propose? Councillor Whitcroft. And second, Councillor MacDonald. All those in favour, please raise. Thank you. Anyone against? And no abstentions. Thank you very much. Unanimous. Item 7, application number 230757, 49 Firwood Drive, Camberley. Are we ready? Please.
Okay, thanks. So this application has been decided by the Planning Committee at the request of Councillor Rowlands because of its proximity to the boundary line with 47 Firwood Drive and overlooking of the garden of this neighbouring dwelling. There are no updates. So this is the application site. The proposal is for the erection of a part 2-storey and part single-storey side extension. The important part of this plan is the boundary between the application site, outlined in red, and the neighbouring property to the northeast, 47 Firwood Drive. The image on the left shows the front of the application site with both neighbouring properties. The image on the right shows the relationship between the application site, the siting of the proposed side extension, and the neighbouring dwelling, number 47, along with the existing 2-storey extension to this neighbour. So starting on the left of these photos, that's the existing blank side elevation of the application site, where the proposed extension would go. Middle image was taken looking north, with the application site on the left, number 47 on the right. This photo also shows the 2 chairs on the small patio area, which is to the side of the neighbouring dwelling. Image on the right shows the side of number 47, with the patio area also doubling as an area for drying clothes. The door is the closest opening you can see, that serves the utility room. The window towards the rear serves a family room, which is also served by a larger window on the rear elevation. This image shows the side garden of number 47, with the garden continuing around the rear of this property. So this plan shows the site and the neighbouring dwelling in a little more detail. It also shows the proposed side extension. The lighter grey is the single storey, the darker grey is the 2-storey side extension. It's acknowledged that the proposed development would result in a limited loss of light to the outdoor amenity space to the side of number 47, particularly in the evenings. However, there is a wider private amenity area to the rear of this neighbouring dwelling, which would be unaffected by the proposed development. In addition, due to the siting of the existing application house to the southeast of number 47, there is existing overshadowing of this area in the evening. The proposal would not result in a material alteration to the existing pattern of overshadowing. The development would retain a minimum separation distance of approximately 3 metres between built forms, which increases to the rear due to the splayed share boundary. The single-storey element is closest to number 47, with the two-storey element being set back. As such, the proposal would not result in an adverse overbearing impact on the occupiers of this dwelling, nor would it result in the outlook of this neighbouring dwelling being dominated by built form. So due to the design of the proposed extension, there'd be no direct overlooking impact towards number 47. There would be a perceived overlooking from a first floor front-facing window, but as this serves a bathroom, privacy can be secured by planning condition. And at ground floor level, screening is provided by the retained boundary wall. The 4 images on the left show the existing elevations. The 4 on the right show the proposed. The proposed development would be subservient to the host dwelling due to the modest width and the set-down height. The 2 images on the left show the existing floor plans. The 2 on the right show the proposed. And this plan shows how the development would be set back from both the principal elevation and from the public realm, thereby resulting in an acceptable impact on the street scene and the character of the area. So the application is recommended for conditional approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councillor Quinn.
So Councillor Rowland's called this in using his own judgment, and I unfortunately can't be here this evening, so I'm substituting for him. So I'm doing my best to represent his concerns and why he decided to call this in. And I really only have 2 kind of interesting questions, I guess. So the first is on the loss of daylight to the patio area. I just find it a bit strange to say that because they have, garden space elsewhere, that doesn't mean that, that discounts the fact that they will lose light to their patio area. Because I just wonder how far that metaphor can be extended. So can you say, for example, that a person complaining about their neighbour's extension doesn't need to complain about that because they own some land elsewhere in the country that they can go, reside in if they want to? Because, yeah, I don't like the wording of that, because I think it is that bit of their garden space that they use for a patio. And although they could move that to somewhere else in their garden, it is that bit that they use that would be affected. And that's my first point. And the second point is really about the proposed sewage pipes that are in close proximity. I note that this is an issue for building regulations, but for the sake of explaining any decision to the resident, can we explain maybe a bit more about that and what the resident could do if they're concerned about sewage pipes being under the area of development? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we...
Okay, so yeah, it is the patio that they use at the moment. It would have some loss of light. The policies and the guidance which is set out in the RDG talks about mainly habitable rooms, not outdoor space. The bits of the guidance that does talk about outdoor space, it does say that the most private amenity area is to the rear. So we sort of have to go from the guidance which is offered on those documents, which doesn't protect side gardens. In this instance, it is a generous plot. They've already had a side extension. They've got this side patio, which they use. But because they've got other space, which is reasonably considered as private amenity, so it's not another bit of land somewhere else, that's why in this instance, it's not significant enough to warrant a refusal.
And the sewage?
About sewage. You can take it if you like, sorry.
Councillor Quinn, can you just repeat that question again? I didn't really follow what
Yes, so it's in the list of reasons that the person objecting, the neighbour objecting to the planning permission gave, and it's classed as a non-material reason for objection. And it says there are sewage pipes in close proximity to the proposed development, and the officer response is, this point is noted. However, construction of development would need to comply with building regulations. So I'm just wondering, so that point's obviously noted. What does that mean, and what can the resident do if they're concerned about the development impacting sewage pipes.
So, I mean, they could contact Thames Water, the water company, around there, if they had an issue about that, in terms of the sewage pipe. It's under 6.3 because it's not a planning matter. It's covered under building regs. If they do have any issues, then they would have to raise it with the neighbour as well. Any concerns? Do we know exactly what the concerns are in regards to that?
Yeah, so I think in their objection letter, they did raise some issue about flooding and sewage backlog in that area. So, but I understand it's not a planning reason for objection. I'm just saying, because this is something that the resident who objected is concerned about, that there are other routes for them to deal with that concern, potentially if the building regulations are impacted. So that's right. That's it.
Okay. Councillor Wheeler.
I just wonder if it's within our gift to add an informative with this application that relates to those particular concerns that were raised, so that it is noted and is I'm not, if I could have some officer assistance on the wording of that informative, I would be grateful, but it would seem prudent at this point.
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. And if we agree to wording with yourself and the chairman.
Thank you. Please.
So we do have an informative already on the paper on page 76, which is informative 2 about building regulations. But are you asking in particular to the sewage pipes?
I think it would be helpful to strengthen that informative in relation to the concerns that have been raised by the neighbour. I have to say I do also have some sympathy with the loss of light in that area, but having looked at it and the angle, it's likely to be a fairly short period of time. And actually, if they just move forward, the shadow of the house that is behind it, it is marginal. But I just would like the residents to know that it has been, very carefully looked at and raised.
I think we can word something in that informative. Yeah.
Anybody else? No? We have an officer recommendation to grant subject to conditions, which we will add some wording. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Whitcroft. Seconder? Councillor Thompson. Thank you. All those in favour?
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. So those voting in favour, Councillors Garrett, MacDonald, Kang, Noble, O'Mahony, David Whitcroft, Helen Whitcroft, Wilson, Thompson, Wheeler and White, and the Chairman.
Those against? No one? Abstentions?
That's Councillor Quinn.
And Councillor Parrott. She abstained as well. Yeah. I think that's carried. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, sorry, it's me talking, not Councillor Quinn. Just to say that I've been through there's a loss of light or sunlight to where I used to stay in another country, and that is quite detrimental, which is why I'm abstaining rather than objecting, because I'm not very. I mean, I've never been to this place, but this. It does affect the what do you call that? Quality of enjoyment in my own private area, I would say.
Okay, thank
for
you.
the want of a better phrase. Thank you.
Now we come to item 8, exclusion of press and public. That press and public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of agenda item 8, development management performance monitoring, as it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information relating to the financial and business affairs of a particular person, including the authority that hold that information, as defined in paragraphs 1 and 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. All those in favour? Exclusion, yes. Yeah. In which case, thank you very much.